Story 1. Probably. Back to the Future Part 2 played out, but the Cubs won 1 year later. Biff became president, and everything went further downhill. Adding to that, how could I forget? Hoverboards don't really hover and sometimes catch fire. Also, remember that weird kid in class? Yeah, he grew up to have more money than pretty much everyone combined and used it to buy a social media platform so he can troll people and make a magic truck he once drew in second grade, which his mom displayed on the fridge. He just wanted to make his mom happy. Story 2. Personally, if it were me waking up from that coma, what would surprise me the most would be the state of today's internet, how much it has changed since back then, and how it has lost all its coolness and slick designs for uniform corporate content. Everyone has smartphones and pretty much does everything with them. People barely go on the internet with a computer now because they just use their smartphones. Our purchasing power that went to absolute decline. Waking up from 2010's purchasing power to the 2024's purchasing power all of a sudden would turn anyone insane. Story 3. After he or she gets over the initial shock that artificial intelligence can hold a lucid conversation with a human, create still images and videos with sound, compose music, and more. Story 4. 5 years after you slipped into a coma, the world became involved in an all-consuming argument over whether a dress was blue or gold. The argument still rages on 9 years later. Story 5. Julie Noke has a great handle on what you are trying to answer in a humorous way. Story 6. Go back to sleep, buddy. You'll never be able to pay off your bills. You thought it was hard in 2010. It's harder now. You also missed a global pandemic where millions of people died. The Queen died. Also, the house you were looking at is now 10 times the price it was when you went into a coma, and you're unemployed. The company you worked at went under during the pandemic. Oh, that was the pandemic. We have subpar AI now that makes bad art and risks poisoning people who think it's a reliable source to identify plants and fungi. But we have squishmallows now, and I brought you one. Story 7. The fact that Trump was elected president once, and that he is running again after having lost the previous elections indicates that the race is going to be close. Any normal person would go back into a coma upon hearing that. Story 8. The leading candidate for the presidency of the United States has been convicted of crimes and is on trial for more. Furthermore, it's Donald Trump, and he's already been the president in the past. Story 9. Wow, where do we start? Surprise, there was a worldwide pandemic and millions of people died. Millions of people do not even believe it was real. Trump was the president. He shared AI pictures of Taylor Swift endorsing him. Oh, surprise, AI is a thing now, but it's not real artificial intelligence. It's using stolen data from the entire internet to tell people to put glue in their pizza. Also, Russia is totally invading Ukraine, and the Taliban took over Afghanistan. Also, for some reason, kids really like this video about some guy's head coming out of a toilet. But you can turn into a cat on your webcam now, I guess. Story 10. Sure, I'll refine the text for you. Actually, maybe just explain how much social media has taken over in general because Instagram was just getting started in 2010. I don't even think I had one until 2011 to 2012. Story 11. Everyone's talking about Betty White, the Queen, and Donald Trump. But really, would any of that be so surprising? In 2010, Betty White was 88. The Queen was 84. Donald Trump had run for president before, and someone in 2010 would be off the heels of the Bush administration and Sarah Palin being McCain's running mate. Really, what would surprise someone the most would probably be things like the scale of the COVID pandemic, technological advancements, and the modern internet landscape. It would be waking up to hear that a global pandemic killed 7 million people. That your smartphone has a 48 megapixel camera in it and 512 gigabyte storage as a standard option. That the newest video games have become such high definition with 8K graphics that we barely have monitors to display them. That there is a satellite array in orbit to provide internet to nearly anywhere on the planet. That influencer and content creator are real lucrative jobs for millions of people. The trends were there for many of these things, sure, but to see them actually take root at a large scale seemingly overnight would be unbelievable. Story 12. The fact that they shut down most of the world during COVID-19 and that you can now have a fluent conversation with your computer at the intellectual level of a university student. Story 13. I knew a guy who went to jail in 2010. He was released early this year. He was scammed 3 times in the first 3 weeks. Apps and smartphones are all new to him. He doesn't know how Uber works. Story 14. It is not the same, but I have known people who have spent periods in prison that have had a similar experience. One guy I met did not know what the internet was going in and got out in the late 2000s. Story 15. Things pretty much stayed the same for the first 6 years you were in a coma. Then Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Garden took the life of one of their gorillas, Harambe, because he was near a child who had crawled into his enclosure. Following that, life turned into a series of increasingly troubling and complex events that you might find hard to comprehend. To this day, many people pay tribute to the fallen gorilla in various personal ways. Story 16. The global human population increased by more than 1 billion in the time you were in the coma. It's also still growing very nearly as fast. Story 17. I don't really know where to start except that he trails off into tears, but starts anew. Carrie Fisher and David Bowie are dead. Story 18. Hello. My mother was in a 6-month coma when she was 16, hit by a drunk driver. It's a long story. When she woke up, terrified and with permanent retrograde amnesia, she couldn't ask many questions. She told me she was terrified, that what people said to her made little sense. She kind of thought she knew some words spoken to her, but not really. She didn't know who she was, what a name was, and that she had one, what a doctor was, and recognized no one. Not the sort of situation where she'd ask what happened while she was under. Obviously, despite a very shattered body and memory loss, she made a complete physical recovery. Much better than the she won't live, or she will be a lifelong vegetable if she does live, they predicted for her. I've seen the scars on her body, the paperwork from the hospital, the crash photos, the newspaper articles, and the tales from my aunts and uncles about helping her to relearn everything from language, to how to tie her shoes, to reading and writing again, much less learning how to walk and talk. It was more like I was being reminded of things I should have known. At some points, Mom said. It was just sad that, to her, they were all strangers. She didn't know them. The happy thing is that she reforged family bonds with all her siblings over time. It probably helped that they all pitched in to help her. You see, my grandparents were convinced she'd die and thrown out all her things. So jogging her memory wasn't much of a thing. She does remember a few things of her childhood now, but it took decades to resurface. Most of it is permanently gone. But basically, she didn't wake up from her coma saying, "What's up, dudes? What did I miss?" Story 19. The state of the world is a lot better than it was in 2010. Planned obsolescence and artificial scarcity became outlawed, and now everyone's needs are met. Life is flourishing in harmony with the earth across the globe. Story 20. There is a movie where Rebel Wilson wakes up years later after a high school accident, and her funniest struggle was the current vocabulary for queer people, disability, people of color, etc. I would give them an English lesson on acceptable and unacceptable words. Story 21. A lot of famous people have died. Many famous individuals are actually evil and bad. The prices of things aren't the same. A lot of media change for the better and for the worse. The political spectrum has shown to be useless and unintelligent. Yes, I would not have wanted to learn any of those. Story 22. You can have a penis, but genuinely call yourself a girl. And actually, people will believe you. I imagine the number of people denying biology in 2024 will be astounding. Story 23. They announced Grand Theft Auto 6. Bloons Tower Defense has a 5 and 6 now. That funny block game is the best thing on the market and is now owned by Microsoft. O.J. Simpson is dead. Muhammad Ali is dead. Prince and Carrie Fisher are dead. Sandy and several other storms ended up repeatedly battering the coast. That guy on The Apprentice was president for 4 years and is saying the last election was stolen, impeached twice, convicted of 34 felonies, and can still run. Pretty much every YouTuber you knew is either outed as a pedophile, dead, or faded into irrelevance. Beetlejuice still hasn't exploded yet. We found a drug that could potentially destroy many types of cancer. Steve Jobs is dead. The Queen is dead. Stephen Hawking is dead. Amy Winehouse is dead. This guy named Mr. Beast came in, YouTube is entirely different now, bought out by Google. Steam hit it really big, Roblox is back, we have self-driving cars, and we are probably going to have people back on the moon next year. Any questions? Story 24. We're so used to the madness that the person waking up from the coma would probably surprise us with their reaction of how disillusioned we are and how the world is a much weirder and cold place. But I would tell them that there are a lot of forest fires nowadays, like everywhere, quite often. Oh, and storms. Can't forget the storms. And floods. School shootings are rather common in the US. There's ever so often some kind of terror attack out of the blue. Not like September 11th, but the occasional truck will run over people or someone will place a bomb in the subway or so on and so forth. Just basic everyday stuff. This really old and obnoxious orange businessman was the US president for a while. He doesn't accept loss and has convinced almost half the population that the election system is rigged. Also, his personal unofficial motto is grab them by the pussy. He also likes to call his opponents criminals. People are fine with this. There's a war in Europe as Putin is trying to reestablish the Soviets' former glory. Oh, and Nazism and fascism are making a comeback in Europe, disguised as populism, of course. I feel like we live in that Logan movie. It's not totally post-apocalyptic like Mad Max, but it's still a rather grim place. The good guys are marginalized, beat up, and aged. We all try to live our lives as usual, but deep down we know that the near future is rather bleak. Maybe the younger generation might have a chance. Oh, and superhero movies got actually good for a while. Then everything turns into a lazy multiverse. Don't get into that. Logan is good though. Watch that. Streaming and watching movies and series is rather easy. I mean, you need 1,000 different subscriptions, but the internet connection is really good. So that's one thing. Story 25. The "you're fired" individual from television is a twice partially impeached former president who completed his term and is currently running for office again. Oh, I forgot to mention, he's also now a convicted felon. Story 26. Wow. Waking up after all that time must feel like stepping into a science fiction movie. I'm curious though, what would you possibly tell them about modern life that sounds too wild to believe? Like, do they even have a concept of influencers and TikTok dances? Story 27. We have time traveled back to the 1920s. There is war in Europe. We have had an epidemic. The economy is experiencing rampant inflation. The United States is toying with nationalism just as Germany is. Story 28. Welcome back. Smartphones are now everywhere, social media has taken over, and the world has faced big changes like the COVID-19 pandemic. It is like waking up in a science fiction movie. Story 29. Whoa. Dude, you missed a lot. Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up. So, remember when the financial markets crashed and real estate went goodbye? That tomfoolery is called the Great Recession now, and it took us a bit to recover. Around 1,000 people marched through the streets of New York City's financial district in September 2011 under an Occupy Wall Street banner. The protesters condemned income inequality and the influence of money in politics and called for an overhaul of what they saw as a failing financial system. Yeah, nothing by changed. Our boy Obama, he won re-election in 2012 against Mitt Romney. Yep, the Mormon dude. The campaign was amazingly polite officially, but AM radio lost its mind. Donald Trump, yeah, the apprentice dude, he went on and on about Obama being a Muslim who wasn't American. No, yeah, we'll get back to that. In 2013, 3 black female activists started using the social media hashtag Black Lives Matter in response to the acquittal of a dude who shot and killed an unarmed black teen, Trayvon Martin. Drawing inspiration from the civil rights and black power movements of the 1960s and Occupy Wall Street, the Black Lives Matter movement gained more attention in 2014 and 2015, when rioting followed the deaths of several black men who were killed by police. Yeah, nothing by changed. 2016, Hillary runs. Yeah, Clinton. Oh yeah, Benghazi happened in 2012 in Libya when she was Secretary of State. I'll send you a link to the movie. Anyway, she stole the primary from Bernie. Like full-on shenanigans. They fired the head of the DNC, but Hillary got away with it, but no one trusted her at all after that. What? Yeah, we call that the Clinton body count. Glorious dank memes. Huh? No, ironically, still married. Anyway, she runs against Trump. Yes, him, celebrity apprentice dude. He wins. No, seriously. He does this whole Make America Great Again thing. Red hats everywhere. No, as a Republican. Dude, I'm serious. So then the UK does Brexit and breaks up with the EU. They royally screw themselves financially. It was bad. Russian interference. The UK hasn't been the same since. Oh yeah, she's dead. No, her son became king. Yeah, that one. Watch The Crown on Netflix. I think they also have a documentary. Huh? Oh no, not DVDs in the mail. We all stream shows now over the internet. Yeah, that cord-cutting thing took off and went mainstream. Nope, no more cable. Well, sort of. Okay, that's like 6 apps you have to install on your smart TV and all the shows stream through those apps. Well, at first, but now we pay as much for subscriptions to those apps as what cable cost. Yep, nothing changes. So let's see. Hurricanes, earthquakes, more terrorist attacks. They blew up the Boston Marathon somewhere in there. Yep, you stream that movie too. Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, Marky Mark. Lots of school shootings. A concert in Las Vegas. Yeah. Oh, climate change. Yep. Real. No, we really haven't done much about it. Well, hold on. So Trump got elected. They impeached the heck out of him. No, like twice. Yep. No. So yeah. Anyway, Joe Biden runs in 2020 and wins. Yep. Oh yeah, like 4 years of dumpster fire. Yep, so he wins but Trump won't concede. So January 6th happens. Oh, so you remember Schoolhouse Rock? Okay, so the Electoral College? Yeah. On January 6th, they count the electoral votes in Congress and make it all official. Yeah, so Trump held a rally in DC that day. Yep, stormed the Capitol. Totally. Well, remember the Tea Party crowd? Yeah, basically. Well, now Trump says it wasn't his supporters, it was Antifa. Anti-fascists. Netflix? I think it's actually on HBO Max. Wait, that's just called Max now. Yeah. Oh, and Trump had an affair with a porn star and paid her hush money. And he raped a woman. No, like decades ago. Yeah, she sued him. And then there's Epstein. Yeah, I'll let you look all that up. There's the Me Too movement. They took down Harvey Weinstein. Yeah, the movie producer. Remember what Courtney Love said in that interview? Yeah, all true. So then COVID hit. Global pandemic. All of us locked in our houses for like 2 years. No, seriously. Remember SARS? It was like a cousin of SARS or something. Trump tried to deny it. Gave a press conference and was talking about using bleach to kill it and shining lights in your body. It was bizarre. Be glad you missed that. So Biden. Dude, he's like almost 90. I know. Yep, still creepy. So he stepped down and his vice president Kamala Harris is running now. Against Trump. Not yet. He was convicted of 34 felonies and still has 3 more cases pending. Well, felons can apparently still be president. I know. Dude, I'm just the messenger. Oh, and no more Roe versus Wade. Nope. Trump put 3 justices on the Supreme Court and they overturned it. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. No, seriously. Yes. They asked each of them during confirmation and all 3 said that it was settled case law. Dude, seriously, just the messenger here. Chill. Oh, and the economy is messed up. Well, not so much still as again. So wages are the same but houses are twice as expensive. No one can afford rent or a mortgage. I know. I know. Dude, chill. Look, seriously, I am just telling you. I didn't do it, okay? Don't yell at me. Why? Well, if there is a single cause to it all, it happened in May 2016. There was this gorilla,